We want to get you some breaking news out of the Middle East as Israel's military tonight issuing a warning to residents in two areas of southern Beirut to evacuate immediately. That video from just moments ago, you see flames and smoke and explosions on the horizon in Beirut. Hezbollah also launching rockets into northern Israel, where Israeli officials say some homes were damaged. CNN international correspondent Jumana Karadish is in Beirut. She joins us now live. And Jumana, I know you've been monitoring this. I see you looking behind you. What is happening right now?
Well, Jessica, just in the last few minutes, we've heard another blast, what appears to have been another strike not far from the one we were just showing you a few minutes ago. We've been speaking over the past hour. We have been describing the scene that we are seeing in the southern suburbs of Beirut, where we have seen Israeli military airstrikes focused for the past 10 days or so, and this night appears to be another intense night of bombardment. It is unclear what the target of these strikes was, but we do know that the IDF put out these warnings in posts on X by its Arabic language spokesperson, asking residents of a number of neighborhoods in the southern suburbs to evacuate immediately, to move away from a number of buildings that they've pinpointed on a map, saying that they are near Hezbollah facilities, installations, and that they need to move 500 meters, at least 500 meters away from these buildings. Now, this is something that we have seen the Israeli military doing in recent days. They put out these warnings in the middle of the night, and then these airstrikes begin. But this appears to be an intense night of bombardment of the southern suburbs. It's an area that is, it's got heavy presence of Hezbollah. That is where the chief of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, was killed a week ago in an Israeli strike, and you've had other top commanders also killed in the southern suburbs. But since then, we've also seen many strikes continuing there. The Israeli military says that it is targeting Hezbollah facilities. That is not what you would hear from Lebanese authorities. But what we have seen tonight, at least in one instance, in one of those blasts that we showed you earlier, is what appears to be secondary explosions after that strike. We've seen this ball of fire and continuing sounds of explosions in the distance. It's very difficult to show you this right now, but we can still see the flames burning. You can still see a thick black plume of smoke rising in the distance. Of course, we are a few miles away from this, so you can imagine for us to see and to hear what appeared to be such a massive strike that, for people close by and some of the images that we're starting to see emerge on social media, it does appear to have been a large strike that hit the southern suburbs. Now, these evacuation orders come in late at night. It's unclear if people have gotten them. We have seen so many people, this mass exodus from the southern suburbs, people leaving in the past week or so, but there are some civilians who remain there. There are people who've returned there because they have nowhere else to go. They've returned to their homes, and they tell you that it's very difficult for them to be up all night waiting for these evacuation orders. And this is one of those instances where there was a warning, but we have seen strikes throughout the day today where there was no prior warning. And within 30 minutes, about almost, of the first post by the IDF spokesperson, those strikes began. And it is unclear as well, Jessica, if those were the exact locations that were pinpointed on that map by the IDF. But what we do know is that it was a massive strike, really, and it was in the southern suburbs of Beirut. And we'll try and get you more information on that in the coming hours.
I do want to ask you before you go, I know you all have been there, you've been monitoring this night after night. Give us some context how this strike would compare to the previous nights. It sounds like this is a more intense, bigger strike, but I want to hear what you say.
Well, Jessica, we've seen a number of there are nights where you see this sort of intense bombardment, but not necessarily all sort of large scale blast like this, or there was something distinct about these as well. We'd hear this rumbling sound in the distance, and then you would see those flames, hear the blasts, and it just felt a bit different. I mean, I was here along with other colleagues on that Friday when the Israeli military killed the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, and those were number of consecutive strikes like none that I've seen in my near 20 years of covering conflicts and wars. So we have seen massive explosions in the southern suburbs, and this appears to be another night of intense bombardment.
Mm-hmm. And all of this is happening, of course, as Israel is weighing how it will counterstrike Iran. Obviously, you're in Beirut, Jomana, but that is where Hezbollah is. That is why Israel is attacking Lebanon. How does that affect the people there? How are they thinking about it? How does this kind of outstanding counterattack, if it does, affect what's going on around you, and how the Lebanese people are thinking about it as well?
Well, simply, Jessica, people here fear that they will be the ones who bear the brunt of whatever comes next in this escalation between Iran and Israel. Of course, Hezbollah was and continues to be one of Iran's top proxies in the region. It was described as the crown jewel of Iranian proxies in the region. And, so far you have seen the Israelis seem to have decimated their command structure. They have taken out their top leadership. But at the same time, there have been questions about their capabilities and what their fighting force is like. And if you look at what is going on the southern border, and on Israel's northern border, you see that every single day we are still continuing to get these claims from Hezbollah that it is continuing to carry out attacks, they say, on Israeli forces, whether inside Israeli territory or forces who have crossed into Lebanon as part of that ground operation that was announced by the Israelis earlier this week. And it does seem that these ground forces, who have not really carried out a full-scale incursion or an invasion, really, that these seem to be limited raids, as we understand it, sporadic raids, according to our sources, where they come into Lebanese territory and then they cross back into Israel. And if you look at some of the casualty figures we have seen on the Israeli side in recent days, it does appear that these Hezbollah fighters are putting up a stiff resistance.
Yeah. All right, Jomana Karacha, please stand by for us and keep you and your team very safe. I want to go to CNN White House correspondent Arlette Saenz, who is joining us now from South Bend, Indiana. And when asked about his stance on Israel targeting Iranian nuclear facilities and oil fields, Arlette, President Biden cautioned that would be a bad idea. But we do know that Israel is talking with the United States as they weigh what their options might be, how they might go forward. What do you know about the communication the president and his team are having with Israeli government officials right now as we continue to see things escalate?
Well, Jessica, there's no question that the administration is dealing with this conflict on multiple fronts right now. You had seen President Biden say that he had been hopeful that there would be some type of diplomatic resolution to the conflict that's been brewing between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. But instead, you have seen this increase in fighting occur there. And these images that you've seen play out could certainly be part of that as well. But President Biden, over the past few days, has really been focused on what the Israeli response to Iran's barrage of missile attacks that they had fired off against the country a bit earlier this week. While the president himself has not spoken with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu since August, senior administration officials have been in constant contact with their Israeli counterparts as they are gaming out the next steps of how they will respond. The U.S. has said that they believe that Iran should face consequences for its actions, but behind the scenes, they are also trying to advise and counsel Israel with exactly how they should proceed. The ultimate hope here is that there could be a more measured response from Israel, but administration officials don't deny the fact that they do believe Israel will respond at some point in time. Now, President Biden himself, when you're specifically talking about Israel and Iran, has said that he does not believe that Israel should target Iran's nuclear facilities. He also, a bit earlier in the week, had left the door open to the possibility that Israel could target Iran's oil reserves. But then just yesterday, as he spoke at the White House press briefing room, he said that he does believe they should consider alternative options and not go after any oil fields.